from looking at it from that lens, it's a very different view into what can be done. That not all change needs to be about reining in expenses and cost reductions. There are opportunities to continue to sustain innovation and to continue innovation even through these times.
Carol, hi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and who you work for, please?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Scott. I'm Carol. My last name's Barrett. I'm an engineering manager at Netflix. And at Netflix, I work on all things related to consumer identity and access. And I just wanted to pitch it because I think it's so cool. We work on, if you basically log into Netflix or if you log into any of our games, then you're touching many of our systems in the back end.
Amazing. And Carol, later on this year, you're going to be joining us at Leading Edge West Coast. Could you just tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about there?
Yeah, absolutely. So my talk is titled Sustaining Innovation Through Changing Times. And really, as we're seeing, right, as engineering leaders, we've really had to evolve through rapid changes over the last few years. And they don't even cover the more than two hands, really. The global pandemic, great resignation, great regret, working from everywhere, working from anywhere. And, coupled with the hiring spree that we had to go through, followed by the reversal of the hiring spree that engineering leaders have to go through. And so on reflection, we're being asked to stretch ourselves and our teams, and we have to meet what feels like a continuously changing business environment. So there's a constant expectation that we have to do more with less. And so this talk really is titled, How do you sustain innovation, or what do you need to do to sustain innovation? Because times are constantly changing. And I explore the concepts of trust and adaptability. I kind of look at it through those lenses with the intention of looking at what I call the 3 Ps, right? People, processes, and product. And which is basically the 3 Ps are the primary focus for any engineering leader. And looking through that lens, basically explore these concepts of trust and adaptability.
Yeah, and we've had no shortage of change over the last year or so, as you pointed out there. What change in particular has been the hardest, do you think, for you to adapt to as a leader, and how have you worked through that over the last year or so?
The change, I would say over the last year, most companies have reined in expenses, and we've seen a large volume of attrition, involuntary attrition, a lot of change. Netflix, on the other hand, and we've launched 4 different things in the last year, and so it's a very different, from looking at it from that lens, it's a very different view into what can be done. That not all change needs to be about reining in expenses and cost reductions. There are opportunities to continue to sustain innovation and to continue innovation even through these times. So the way in which you adapt your systems and you trust your systems has just been very visible in how we've been able to accomplish all of the business priorities in the last year.
Yeah, I think this is the thing that I'm most excited about with this talk, because really you're getting to something that I think a lot of engineering leaders will recognize, which is that there's been a lot of change. We're expected to do more with less, but also the demand for innovation has not gone anywhere. Like, you need to keep moving, you need to keep innovating, you need to keep launching things. And I think doing that within a smaller footprint or within tighter constraints is something loads of people are trying to kind of get their arms around. How are you going to help them figure that stuff out when we get to Leading Edge later this year?
Yeah, so that's the crux of the talk, and which is essentially, how do you think about it in the context of trust and adaptability? And really, if you as you pointed out, I think innovation is something we tend to think of innovation as product launches and as the shiny object that makes the news. As engineering leaders, we have to think about what we call innovation across really 3 different dimensions of our work. One of them is, of course, building the necessary systems to do product launches. Another one is constantly innovating the infrastructure so that we can meet with scale and we can meet new business requirements. And the third is, of course, how do you innovate on the tools and the processes so that you can indeed be able to adapt, I would say, to these changes. And so oftentimes, so when you look across all of these dimensions and then you think through those, it really becomes, you have to sustain that. Maybe in one quarter you'll prioritize one, and another quarter you'll prioritize the other. But really, I hope that through this talk, the audience gets a sense that it is possible to do, and then basing it and founding it on the basis, I would say, of trust and adaptability it can be done across multiple dimensions.
Awesome. And let's fast forward a little bit. You're coming off the stage, you're feeling very relieved. What do you hope the audience takes away from your talk?
Well, I hope that in the moment, we tend to think about what needs to be done today. And oftentimes, I think trust and adaptability, I found, are at the background of our conscious rather than the foreground of our conscious. So my hope is that it leaves some food for thought for various engineering leaders, depending on where they are in their journey. And at the best, my final hope, at least, it is, if nothing else, it starts a path of self-discovery and learning, which I think is very important as an engineering leader.
Awesome. And lastly, what was it about Leading Eng that made you want to share this talk with that audience specifically?
It's a great community of engineering leaders. I mean, it's such a varied community of engineering leaders, and you actually reflect topics that are relevant to leaders across the world, which I think is so phenomenal. And because you do it in small and intimate settings, I think you really get that ability for interaction and for exchange of ideas. So it was very appealing. I'm hoping that this will be a cross-pollination, that I will hear back as much as I'm able to give.